Hey, what's up, everybody? Tommy Meyer here. Welcome to Tommy Tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, if this war in Ukraine has taught us anything, other than the fact that Vladimir Putin obviously has a very small penis, why do you think he sits behind those long tables? By the way, Zelensky hung like a horse. I'm sure you already knew that. Anyway, if this war has taught us anything, it's that we've got to end our reliance on oil and gas. Let's put global warming off to the side for a second. Wrap it up in a nice little box and put it over here. We hear a lot of talk these days about energy independence, but the truth is that we will never actually be energy independent if we continue to rely on oil and gas. Now, I know what you're thinking. We were energy independent under the last guy, but then Sleepy Joe came in and took it all away. Well, that is not actually true. The United States is a net energy exporter, and we produce more than we consume. We became a net exporter of petroleum in 2020, and that remained the case in 2021. And we actually produced more crude oil in Biden's first year than we did in either of Trump's first 2 years. Now, as far as natural gas is concerned, we are a net exporter of natural gas, and our exports actually hit a record high in 2021. In fact, here is a clip of one of our greatest gas exporters.
The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness.
Never gets old. By the way, he's also an exporter of crude oil. But my point is that we are, and some of you may be surprised to hear this, but we are actually the world's largest oil and natural gas producer. And finally, just in case I haven't pissed off enough environmentalists yet, Biden actually signed more leases for drilling on public land in his first year than Trump did in his, which is why the Energy Information Agency forecasts that we will reach a new record for oil production next year. So this idea that Biden destroyed our energy independence, look, I get it. It's catchy, it's simple, it's an easy to understand explanation for why gas prices are so high, but it's simply not true. We are as energy independent today as we were under the last administration. But that still hasn't isolated us from price fluctuations due to events happening in other countries. So why? Well, some of you may have been wondering while I was spouting those statistics, does he have a life? No, he does not. This is what I do with my weekends. But you may have also been wondering, if we export more energy than we import, and we produce more than we consume, then why are we importing oil at all, right? Why don't we just use all our own? Well, the reason is it's actually cheaper. It lowers prices when we produce oil compared to if we just used all our own. And the reason for that is simple. It's actually much more expensive to produce a barrel of oil in the United States than it is in places like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Iraq, costing about twice as much in this country. Not because of regulations and taxes, but because the oil here is actually really hard to get to. A lot of it is in reservoirs thousands of feet beneath the surface in the Gulf of Mexico, or in dense rock formations that need to be fractured, so-called fracking. Saudi Arabia, by comparison, they actually have vast oil fields that are really close to the surface of the desert. This is why Saudi Arabian oil is some of the cheapest in the world. So, again, the reason we import oil is because it is actually cheaper. Now, the other reason we import oil is that our refineries are actually not set up to process the type of oil that we produce here at home. We have so-called sweet crude. And let me tell you, God damn it, I spilled it. They ain't kidding. Oh, yeah, I like it neat, baby. It's just the right amount of sulfur there. You see, our refineries were set up decades ago, before the shale revolution, and they were designed to process a heavier grade of crude with a much higher sulfur content than what we produce. So it actually makes economic sense for us to export our oil to countries that have their refineries to process it, and to import cheaper oil, which our refineries can process most efficiently. We also don't have the pipelines to ship oil from the Gulf Coast, where most of it is produced, to the East and West Coast. And I know what you're thinking. No, the Keystone Pipeline would not have helped with that. The Keystone Pipeline would have brought oil from Canada down to refineries in Texas. Also, even before the project was aborted, it wasn't set to be completed until 2023. Fun fact, though, that might be the last abortion to ever happen in Texas. So as you can see, being energy independent does not necessarily make our energy cheaper. But even if it did, there's still one very important reason why the U.S. can never be energy independent while relying on oil. And that is because We just don't have that much of it. The US only has about 4% of the world's proven oil reserves. We consume 20%. The countries that have the most oil: Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Canada, Iran, Iraq, and of course, Russia. All countries, with the exception of Canada, that are unstable, run by dictators, or both. Though some on the right would consider Justin Trudeau a dictator, I'm not quite sure he rises to the level of a Nicolas Maduro, though he does look good in a mustache. But even if you hate Justin Trudeau here, that should just make you want to move away from oil quicker, because the U.S. actually gets more than 50% of its oil from Canada. But the big question on everyone's mind today, of course, is how do we get prices down, right? Well, it's really just a simple case of supply and demand. To decrease prices, we need to increase supply. Now, we can do that here at home, and we are, but that takes time. Experts say that there's about a 6 to 9 month lag between today's high prices and when we can bring new production online. But other countries have the capacity to ramp up much more quickly. Biden has been criticized for so-called begging OPEC to produce more, but OPEC controls nearly 80% of the world's proven oil reserves, so he kind of has to. Now, another way to bring prices down would be to open the market back up to some of the oil-rich countries that are currently under U.S. sanctions. After Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, their production dropped to an almost 40-year low. Similarly, Venezuela, which has been under U.S. sanctions since 2019, their production has dropped off dramatically. In fact, before the sanctions hit, we were actually importing about as much oil from Venezuela as we currently do from Russia. And look, obviously there's very good reasons that we don't want to do business with these countries, but as long as we are relying on oil and gas, we're going to have to rely on other countries. And let's face facts. Most of the oil-rich countries are run by murderous dictators. So if we really want to be energy independent, we're going to need a source of energy that we have here in the United States in abundance. Excuse me, sorry, just give me one sec. There's a bit of a breeze in here. Let me just close the window. There we go. Oof, also that sun is, yikes, that is bright. Let me just get those shades down too. There we go. Yeah, that's much better. That's much better. Wait a minute, I've got it. Nuclear. Actually, though nuclear is one of the safest and cleanest ways of generating electricity and absolutely should be a part of the conversation, it's actually quite expensive compared to other energy sources. But currently, right now, today, the cheapest way of generating electricity is onshore wind and solar. Cheaper than coal, cheaper than gas, cheaper than nuclear. It's not a panacea. Obviously there are still problems with intermittency, which means basically the sun isn't always shining and the wind doesn't always blow. But that can be solved with better storage technology, better transmission lines, and a diversified grid so that there are multiple sources that can be feeding it. Look, I'm not saying that we should go to 100% solar and wind tomorrow. That would not be practical. And I'm also not saying that this would solve today's high prices. It would not be an immediate fix. But by not moving to these energy sources as fast as is practical, and by not investing in sources of energy that we have in abundance here at home, we are ensuring that we pay more for energy, not less, and that we are more dependent on people like Vladimir Putin, Nicolas Maduro, Mohammed bin Salman, and if that doesn't scare you, Justin Trudeau. Thanks. And one last point. I know I said that I put climate change off to the side for a bit. Well, I want to bring it back in because now I want to talk about green. Not that green. That green. Because climate-related disasters are costing us a whole lot of green. In 2021 alone, we spent $145 billion on climate-related disasters. $742 billion in just the last 5 years. Since 2005, we have spent about $1.5 trillion on weather and climate disasters. That means we have spent an entire Russia on climate change. Well, Russia before the invasion. Now I'm pretty sure their economy is just a penny in a piece of pocket lint. Look, I'm not saying that every extreme weather event can be blamed on climate change, but in the last 4 decades, it has been getting exponentially worse. And we don't talk about this much, but there's also a cost in terms of human life. Estimates vary, but experts believe that somewhere between 7 and 8 million people die every year because of air pollution, including hundreds of thousands of Americans. And who knows, maybe some of those people are racists or Pete Davidson, but most of them probably don't deserve to die. Let me leave you with this. We all know that people who drive electric cars are kind of douchey, right? They're just, you are. I mean, look at this guy. Ugh. You just want to ugh. He drives a Tesla. You know because he tells you about it all the time. By the way, this is just a random picture that I found on the internet. So whoever this is, I'm going to go with Caleb. Please don't sue me. But fuck Caleb. Right? Caleb sucks. Caleb is the worst. Well, guess what? Caleb here, he's laughing at us right now. Every time he passes a gas station, he's just yucking it up. Oh, he uses the term yucking it up. Of course he does. Help me shut up, Caleb. Please, help me shut him up. Let's finally put an end to our dependence on oil and gas. That's all the time I got for you. I'm Tommy Meyer. By the way, you may not know this about me, but I'm also a coffee roaster. And, well, sometimes I like to use my coffee for a good cause. So currently, I'm selling Joe for Ukraine. The proceeds go to United Help Ukraine, which provides medical aid and humanitarian assistance to the people of Ukraine. Donating is super easy. You just go to bit.ly/Joe for Ukraine. Donate at least $15, and I will send you a super special and sexy discount code to get your bag of Joe for Ukraine. Hopefully, this is a very limited time offer. We're all hoping that this comes to an end soon. Anyway, get yours today. As I was saying, I'm Tommy Meyer, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram, and you gotta check out my Zangats. Also, let me know what you think by commenting down below.